As educators, it's understandable that the concern is raised if you are adequately promoting language development across all academic areas, since it serves as a foundation for children's learning, which extends into their social relationships and overall impacts their emotional growth. Therefore, to support our diverse learners, we need to understand how children acquire language and how it develops over time. While there are differing perspectives on language development, examining each theory allows us to assess its strengths and limitations and explore how we can apply these approaches effectively in the classroom. Therefore, our presentation is Language Growth Theory to Practice. Looking first at the nativist theory, Noam Chomsky proposed that children are born with an innate language acquisition device, LAD, that enables them to acquire language naturally. According to this theory, exposure to language activates a child's built-in capacity to learn grammar and syntax, found by Chomsky's language acquisition device, LAD, Sandrox et al., page 71. To implement this in the classroom, encourage language exposure through activities like storytelling, reading out loud, and engaging in conversation, as well as providing opportunities for children to experiment with language through dialogue, role-playing, and creative writing. Now, there is a drawback, as the nativist approach cannot explain the whole story of language acquisition, founded by Chomsky's language acquisition device, LAD, Sandrox et al., page 71. Next, we'll be looking at the behaviorist theory, as behaviorists propose that language is learned through the imitation, reinforcement, and repetition. Children acquire words and grammar by observing and imitating adults and receiving positive feedback. Behaviorists believe that language is a skill processed through learning over time, found by environmental influences, Sandrock et al., page 71. To implement this in the classroom, reinforce correct language use through the utilization of praise, rewards, and repetitive activities, as well with implementing structural language exercises such as vocabulary games, sentence building activities to facilitate language development through practice. Now, there are a couple of drawbacks with this theory, as it has limited attention to internal cognitive processes. It doesn't fully explain how children create novel sentences. Along with the behaviorist approach doesn't take into account that the development of a native language syntax occurs even without reinforcement. Next, we're going to be looking at the social constructivist theory found by Vygotsky. Vygotsky proposed that language and thought develop separately at first and later merge. He emphasized that mental functions have social origins, as children use language to communicate before using it for inner thought. Around ages 3 to 7, private speech helps children regulate behavior, learn, and stay motivated. As it internalizes, it becomes inner speech for thought, founded by Language and Thought, Sandrox et al., page 54. To implement this in the classroom, monitor and support children's use of private speech, recognizing its shift from allowed self-talk in preschool to silent inner speech in early elementary years. Encourage them to internalize and use this speech for self-regulation and problem solving. This quote was found by Teaching Strategies, Sandrox et al., page 54. There is a drawback for this theory, as Vygotsky might have overemphasized the role of language in thinking, and this was found by Evaluating Vygotsky's Theory, Sandrox et al., page 54. Now, here is my recommendation for educators. Through examining each approach, it becomes evident that integrating them is the most effective way to support language development. The interactionist perspective emphasizes this as highlighting that combining biological readiness, social interaction, and environmental learning enables children to acquire language naturally, socially, and systematically. This quote was founded by an interactionist view of language, Sandrox et al., page 54, which states that the interactionist view holds that both biology and experience shape language development and integrates elements of the nativist and behaviorist perspectives, emphasizing that innate abilities and social interaction work together, while biological factors influence each child's capacity for language. Rich verbal environments where adults talk with, respond to, and expand children's speech greatly enhance development. This approach highlights that language growth emerges from the constant interplay between a child's biological readiness and their social experiences. Thus, educators can achieve the best outcomes by incorporating the core principle of all language development theories. For instance, educators can apply behavioral strategies such as positive reinforcement and modeling correct speech, incorporate nativist principles by recognizing developmental readiness, and promote interactionist and social constructivist practices by creating rich, social, communicative, and collaborative learning. environments that encourage private and inner speech for self-regulation and problem solving. By integrating these perspectives, educators can support children's language development, building vocabulary, grammar, confidence, and curiosity, which enhances learning outcomes across all subjects. And here are the list of contents in addition to the book where these contents are found. Thank you very much.